When the white Dutch invaders ended their apartheid regime in South Africa, many feared that they would incur black retribution. The U.S. government assured them that as long as they maintained control over the media content that are fed into the minds of the South Africans, that they didn't have to worry about black retribution. They then exploited their white controlled media to shift the collective aggressions of many South Africans away from the Dutch invaders that had brutalized them for many centuries under the evil apartheid regime and redirected against other African expat migrants. They achieved this by creating false media propaganda that the African expat migrants are taking jobs and resources away from the South Africans. Additionally, propaganda alleging that the African expats were responsible for most crimes and were bringing diseases into South Africa. And to the detriment of our South African brothers and sisters, the white propaganda campaign worked like a charm. Many African expat migrants have been victims of harassment, violence, and even death by South Africans. The collective aggressions of many South Africans have been shifted away from the evil white Dutch that had brutalized them for many centuries and has been redirected against their fellow Africans, African migrants. The U.S. government was confident that this propaganda campaign would work because they used it against African Americans. They used the media to shift African Americans' collective aggressions away from the white society and redirect it against ourselves through their propaganda campaign that constantly inundated us with black on black crime, black on black crime. It was designed to manipulate us to believe that we are now our own worst enemies. It's the true reason why many African Americans now perceive ourselves as being our own worst enemies, all self-loathing, and revere as Caucasians in spite of a brutal history to the contrary. The white controlled media allows the white society to control the collective consciousness of the black masses. This is all possible because those who controls the mainstream media controls the brainstem of a nation's collective consciousness. The definitions of values by which people operate are greatly influenced by the mainstream media. Social norms promoted by media can influence the way of thinking and the cognitive map of a populated audiences. Because perceptions created by the media leads to non-deliberate, thoughtful decision-making just below the level of consciousness. It has been called thinking without thinking, and it ultimately leads to unconscious similar behaviors and ways of thinking. The human mind is like a computer. No matter how efficient it may be, its reliability is only as great as the information fed into it. If it's possible to control the input into the human mind, then no matter how intelligent people are, it's entirely possible to control what people will think. Through repetitive media subliminal programming, an entire generation can be steered towards an implied objective. It doesn't matter if the information presented is true. Most will act upon it because they've all been given the same disinformation. A main architect of this mass media manipulation system that's currently being used was Edward Bernays. Bernays is regarded as the father of mass manipulation. Bernays was the first mass manipulation expert that used his uncle Sigmund Freud's study of the human mind to develop tactics for controlling the minds of large targeted populations through propaganda. It was also Bernays that first permanently impressed upon the white ruling class the potential of large-scale propaganda to control public opinion. Bernays was also a direct advisor to several U.S. presidents, from Woodrow Wilson to Eisenhower. Bernays wrote in his 1929 book, Propaganda, that if we understand the mechanism and motive of the group mind, it is now possible to control and regiment the masses and targeted populations according to our will without them even knowing it. The Tavistock Institute of Human Behavior praised Bernays as being its greatest prophet. The Tavistock Institute of Human Behavior is the largest mass manipulation organization in the world. It is the world's center for mass brainwashing and social engineering. The truth has finally come forward, but millions of Black people have been conditioned to fear it and to hate those who speak it. Millions also refuse to accept the truth because of the inherent call for action that comes with accepting the truth. Many therefore cling to believing in their biblical fairy tales and the silly slave syndrome myth. It's shocking that so many of our people now walks around with computers in their pocket with access to unlimited verifiable information, yet insist on believing in dumb shit in regards to our plight and condition. Those who know must teach, and a speaker of truth has no friends. African proverbs. Time to wake up to our reality.